So, my name is Andrew Johnson, working for Ruud Peterson, and we are working in helping the Romanian Socialists, the PSD party, in their efforts. And it's a great pleasure today to welcome 4 distinguished panelists who will explain to you a number of questions relating to dual standards. And when we're talking about dual standards, we're looking at the broad situation in Romania as well as 2 specific areas. As you know, and as the finance minister has been saying over the last week or so, the economic situation in Romania is improving. Having said that, it could improve faster and more. And there are a number of reasons which may be slowing it down. And it is the PSD who is very keen on providing the judicial and legal framework to enable this development to carry on. There is initiative which went into the Romanian Parliament, I think this morning, relating to the whole question of the dual standards of consumer and pharmaceutical goods. And so we will be able to discuss that, as well as discussing the broader judicial and legal reforms taking place in Romania. Just as a word of housekeeping, this discussion, we want a full and frank and open discussion, and we would like, and obviously, we would say that these questions are on the record. If there is a specific question where the panelists prefer to go off the record, we will then indicate that to you as the question is asked. Is everybody happy with that? Your silence says yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, if I can just turn to the panel and introduce you. First of all, we have Cristian Terhes. Cristian Terhes is a priest, an ordained priest of the Romanian Catholic Church, and is a human rights activist who's been extremely active defending the Romanian diaspora in the United States, and also commenting and working on human rights in Romania. And he has returned to Romania to stand for the first time in this election. Mrs. Ravana Plum, many of you will know, has been, I believe, an MEP, a former MEP, and hopefully a future MEP, and has also taken several senior positions within the Romanian government. Mr. Dan Nica, who's been the head of the Romanian S&D delegation into to the European Parliament, I think needs no introduction. Mrs. Carmen Avram has been for some time a well-known TV presenter in Romania, presenting one of the main discussion and current affairs programs. And she again has decided to stand in these elections. So you have a good combination of experience and new people coming into the candidate system. These are the leading candidates of the S&D. So without any formal ado, let's carry on. I think first of all, Mr. Terhes is going to discuss about the initial situation. Is that, have I got it right?
I think Mrs.
Excuse me, I'm very sorry. Mrs. Plum, if I can hand it over to you.
Hello to everybody. Thank you so much that you are here with us today. It's our pleasure because, you know, as politicians, we are open to discuss with you, to be transparent and to communicate with the people through you. So thank you so much for your presence today with us. I am so sorry. Now it's going. Of course, and you presented me. I would like to say more that I am honored to be member of the PSD Romania, the largest political family in Romania, and I am honored being the person who opened the list of the candidates for the European Parliament. As a former minister for environmental, for labor and social affairs, and for European funds, being in charge with cohesion policy, I had the opportunities to discuss with you about our presidency, but now I am here in front of you telling you that the PSD is the most pro-European party in Romania. And I say this because maybe not many know that PSD is the party which led Romania to NATO and led Romania to the European Union, which is our family now. And I would like to tell you that we are confident that we can contribute a lot as Romanians, as PSD's politicians, to our common European project. More than this, I would like to share with you some economic results which Romania registered being in power now, the PSD together with ALDE in government. So I would like to tell you that Romania registered the greatest economic growth in European Union, being on the first place in 2017. Romania is on the first place for the absorption of subsidies for farmers. Romania is on the first place at the level of the European Union for its corn production and also for sunflower productions. And also Romania registered the fastest growth in buying power. More than this, Romania registered the fastest reduction of poverty. The objective of the Romania, according to the EU 2020 strategy, was to reduce the poverty with 580,000 people, and the Eurostat proved that at the final of 2018 the reduction was for 800,000 people. Of course, we increased the welfare of the people, take into account that we increased the medium wage. Generally speaking, all the salaries. For example, at in December 2018, Romania registered the medium wage increased with 25%. More than this, Romania, for the internal gross product will be for 2019 for the first time with a GDP of the level of 220 billion euros. I would like to tell you that our governmental program contributes a lot in order to reduce the discrepancies, the differences between our regions, and of course between the regions in Romania and the European one. More than this, to increase the welfare of the citizens, and these are the most important goals of our government, and of course governmental program, and the vision of the Social Democratic Party. We would like to, as MEPs, to be open to have an attitude open to a dialogue, to cooperate, and to, as I told you, to contribute a lot to consolidate our European Union project. Thank you so much. If there will be any questions, I will answer. So thank you so much. Andrew?
I'm going to be a mobile reporter, but not too mobile. Does anybody have any questions from... sorry if I could just steal that a second. Does anybody have any questions for the on the economic facts regarding Romania at the present? If not, then we'll move swiftly on.
She knows very well also the results of the president of our presidency to the EU.
So, if I could now perhaps pass the microphone to Mr. Nica, who's going to talk about the legislative initiative on dual standards, which was put into the Bulgarian Parliament this morning. Excuse me.
That's okay. Good afternoon to everybody. So I'd like to start with this. But it's okay. Well, you can hear me. So I'd like to start with the double standards. It was a very strong fight in the Strasbourg session in April, and we are very pleased with the result. So we managed for the very first time to adopt a revised directive of the consumer protection, and for the very first time in the European Union, now we have the legal basis to punish the companies who are selling products with different quantities of ingredients under the same label. And the penalties, they are up to 4% of their total turnover. 4% of the total turnover. So that's number one. Number two is for the very first time when the fake, let's say fake marketing, is also punished with the same penalties. So I would like to quote from the text of the revised directive, which says, if for an average EU consumer, the advertising can mislead a consumer about the properties, the qualities of the product, it's also subject of the punishment of the national regulatory authorities for consumer protection. So there are important steps forwards, and after a strong fight in the European Parliament, we managed to adopt the compromise text. And I'd like to mention the Romanian presidency, because they are the ones to manage to find this compromise, which was not very much welcomed by everybody, because for obvious reasons, we Romanians were not happy with the double standard. Apparently, there are some other people very happy because they are looking only to the profit. And also, this is referred to food, medicaments, and basically for all the products which can be subject to double standards, and they are severely punished by legislation, European legislation. We have, it's an obligation for all member states to adopt it in their national legislations within a period of 2 years. And yesterday, our party, they already supported this, our members of the parliament, they already drafted the project of the Romanian law to put in place the provision of the EU directive for double standards. That's an important step forward, and is very much welcomed by the Romanian population. And I'm pretty sure that all the EU consumers, they'll be extremely happy because because as today they will have as soon as their national member states, they'll have the national legislation adopted. They'll have a very strong tool and strong punishments and a clear mechanism to punish the companies who will still dare to step onto this double standard the business. That's my part of the story. If you have any questions, I'll be pleased to give you more details.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course, should you, at the end of the meeting, you want to ask individual questions, our panelists will be here to answer whatever you would like to do individually as well. So you don't need to think of all your questions immediately. Now, my third panelist I'm going to welcome is Cristian Terhes. Cristian is as I explained before, a Romanian Catholic priest. I hope I'm describing that correctly, and has lived in the US since 2002, where he was a human rights activist mobilizing the Romanian American diaspora to look into human rights abuses, the rule of law, and such questions in the US, and to put pressure on the Romanians. And this has involved litigation as well on a pretty broad scale, as well as activism and advocacy. He has come back to Romania to continue the fight for justice and for human rights, and we're very pleased to welcome him today. And Cristian is going to address some of the human rights issues and rule of law issues currently in Romania.
Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Cristian Terhes. I've been living in the US for over 16 years. I left Romania in the fall of 2002. I went to California right after I finished the seminary. I'm an Eastern Rite Catholic priest, or also known as a Greek Catholic priest. The difference between us and the Roman Catholic priests is that we share the same rite as the Orthodox Church, but we are allowed to marry. So, we took the best out of both rites. Once I got to the US, I was not ordained a priest yet. Being there, I saw the Romanian American diaspora. I was able to meet a lot of the people who left the country before the fall of communism. And I heard their stories, I saw their struggles. And I saw people who left Romania with nothing, and they were able to, become successful people, business people, owners, things like that. Because I saw in the US a country that respected the rights of every person and be allowed to fulfill his or her dreams. Now, comparing the situation from Romania with that from the US, slowly, once I learned the American system, I said, well, something is missing in Romania. Everybody's talking about the state, everybody's talking about the institutions, but not many people are talking about the people. And then slowly I started pushing, I would say, or talking or raising issues related to religious freedom initially, and then slowly I expanded to human rights. Then in 2013, 2014, when there were certain struggles between different parties in Romania about the fight against corruption, I was the one who gathered the Romanian American community, for example, to send a letter to the Secretary of State at that time, John Kerry, to support the fight against corruption. I was one of the people who actually believed in this fight and in the need of this fight. That happened in January of 2014. If you check the news of that time, you will see that after the letter we sent out, Victoria Nuland, who was the Assistant Secretary of State from the Department of State, was sent to Romania to talk to all the parties to, fix certain issues. In May of 2014, I came home to Romania because I had a small vacation. And I met with some people that were part of the judiciary. And they told me, they said, and I quote them, "I saw the letter you sent to the Secretary of State, and I said, yes, everybody, should be sent to jail. And he asked, do you know what is actually happening in Romania? And I said, what? Do you know that all the cases that you see in the, every morning and every night on TV, the many of those cases, many of those evidences, they've been tampered with? Do you know that their fundamental rights to defense, to fair trial are being violated? Do you know that a Romanian intelligence agency is actually involved in creating cases, bogus cases against politicians and business people? And I said, what are you talking about? And here, this is what tricked me or ticked me, because I'm coming from a religious minority community from Romania. That was the only religious community abolished by the communists. We were followed by the Securitate, by the former communist secret police. And many of our bishops, for example, died in prison. By the way, Pope Francis is going to visit Romania at the end of May, and he will sanctify 7 of these bishops, 7 of our bishops that died in prison because of their faith. So I was very sensitive to the involvement of any secret intelligence agency in the judiciary. And I said, if the stuff that you're telling me is true, then all these discussions about fight against corruption, democracy, it's actually has nothing to do with all these words, that and verbiages that we all agree with. And he said, hey, you don't have to believe me. Study this problem, and if you find that it's true, do whatever you want. For 1 year, I've been reading the media very carefully. Nobody in the media said anything about this. So I started to read the laws. We have a law in Romania similar to the Freedom of Information Act, where you can request any public information from any public institution. So I started to request information to make sure that the stuff that I was reading in the media was actually true. Slowly, I started to, I got pieces of information. Nobody could provide me a whole layout of what was happening. So slowly, getting details from here and there, from public sources, from unofficial sources. After a year, I came back to Romania. It was May of 2015, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 4, 5. And I came back to Romania, and I was meeting with all the journalists that they were writing on the justice niche. For 1 year, I was believing, oh my God, the stuff that I discovered, this is, if you tell this data, this information to any journalist, you will get a Pulitzer Prize. So I came to Romania believing that nobody in Romania knows the stuff that, someone told me from the system, because he was afraid to speak publicly about what was actually happening. And I started meeting with all these journalists, and I said, hey, do you know what is actually happening here? Do you know that all abuses, violation of human rights, that the evidences have been tampered with? And they all said, yes. And I was like, what are you talking about? Do you realize that these people have no chance to a fair trial? Well, they said, and I quote, in any war, there's a collateral damage. And I said, guys, if you in the media are not talking about these issues, sooner or later, these issues they will be brought to light, and it will undermine everything that was built in the fight against corruption in Romania. And I repeat the month. It was May of 2015. If you search the news in April of 2015, there was a huge scandal in U.S. with FBI. For 30 years, the FBI agents, they were investigating certain cases, and apparently they discovered a technical way of finding someone who was guilty. And after 30 years, they realized that technique was full of flaws. And it was President Obama, the head of FBI, coming out and publicly apologizing that for 30 years they've been doing that and they were not telling anybody. And I said, just look what happened last month in the U.S. That scandal undermined the reputation of an important U.S. agency. And I said, my advice to you, my invitation, my call to you is to write about the abuses. I'm not saying to take the side of anyone who is accused. Just write about the facts. And they said, we cannot write anything that is actually happening bad in the judiciary because we will affect the fight against corruption. And I said, learn from the history. that by handling all these abuses, sooner or later is going to undermine the fight against corruption. And I told them the following: I'm a Catholic priest. Everybody's aware of the abuses happening in the Catholic Church by the priests. I said many of those abuses were known by the media, but for one reason or another, they were hidden. And when they broke up, we all know the story. So I said at the end, if you are now writing about this, then I will start speaking up about them from the US. So that's the reason why I was the first voice, strong voice from the Romanian diaspora to actually talk publicly about the abuses that were actually happening in Romania. I was the one who contacted a lot of members of the US Congress and many other foreign institutions to expose what was happening. If you look back 4 years from now, the stuff that I was bringing to the light in 2015, it was proven later on by court decisions and all these scandals that are right now making the news pretty much every week in Romania. If you have any questions, I'll be open and willing to answer any of them.
Thank you very much, Christian. And by the way, we have a selection of the biographies of all the speakers here, which I think are available at the back, should you need them. Okay.
I want to add one more thing. Because many people ask me, how come you, who are a priest, you decided to leave not to be in a church anymore and run to be a member of the European Parliament? Isn't that kind of a huge change? And I said the following: regardless if you are a priest or if you are a politician, you are called to serve the people. And when you see something bad happening to your people, you have the obligation, the civil obligation and the whatever belief you might have, to do what is right and to do what is just for your people. So the reason why I actually joined the Social Democratic Party and I accepted the invitation to run to become a member of the European Parliament is to make sure that the rights of all the Romanians are respected, and we should not have this discussion 4 or 5 years from now in Romania. If someone is found guilty of anything, the court, the judge should make the final decision. But what is currently happening in Romania with a severe violation of human rights and the due process must stop.
Thank you, Christian. We have a question here from James Wilson.
Yes.
I think my voice is loud enough. If that's okay.
Yeah, it's good.
Christian, you've certainly set yourself quite a challenge, and I wish you and your party every success in the elections. I just would like clarification on 3 areas, if I may.
Sure.
So the first is you made some reference to prison conditions in Romania. So the first question is, if your party is elected, what can you do realistically in a, let's say, a 5-year time frame, 10-year time frame, to improve prison conditions in Romania? The second part, it's related to this. It's pre-trial detention. Now, in some parts of Europe, pre-trial detention can go on forever. I believe the situation is like that in Romania. It's also in Poland and some other countries. Do you think over a reasonable time frame you will be able to reach a situation where someone is given a fair trial within, let's say, 6 months of being arrested and charged? Last question, sorry, but they're all related.
Yes, no problem.
What do you think your party will be able to do to eradicate those secret protocols you were referring to between the secret police and the different arms of the judiciary that's strangling the independence of the judges?
Yes, I will start with the first question about the prison conditions. I mean, all of you are aware already that Romania was was condemned by the European Court of Human Rights for the fact that it doesn't have the condition in prisons to the standards, to the European standards. But I don't want to talk about statistics and court decisions. I want to talk about the experience that I had when I visited some people in prison. I told you 2014, it was the year when I found out about the abuses happening in the judiciary. And I was reading court cases, court decisions, files, laws, reports, everything. And I talked to a lot of lawyers. And I said in 2015 in May, when I came back to Romania, I said I want to visit someone in prison and actually find out from that person if everything that it said behind the closed doors is true or not. The first person that I visited in prison was Horia Georgescu. He was the former head of ANI, the National Integrity Agency. See, for many years, the European Commission praised, through the CVM report, the Cooperation and Verification Mechanism report, praised his agency for being professional, for doing his job. And in March or April of 2014, this guy was arrested from the street. And there's a discrepancy between what you read in the report. If this agency is going so well, why would you arrest on alleged corruption charges this person? And I request in May of 2015, when I went back to Romania, I request to visit him in prison. He's wanting to see a case on TV, is wanting to actually go in a prison and talk to that person and see the conditions. And that totally changed the way I related to the issue. After that meeting with him in prison, I met with the journalists. And when they said, I'm not going to write anything about the problems of the judiciary, and I said, guys, I just came from a pretrial detention center right now, and I met with Horia Georgescu. And I said, you were friends with him. These guys were writing about justice every day. You guys were at parties together, talking, embassy, meetings at the embassies. And they said, well, it's happening. And I said, man, if these people, besides the fact that they are, as journalists, they are not doing what they are called to do, to report the truth, if one of their friends had to be in that situation and they're not reporting on that issue, how are they going to report on a stranger? So that totally changed my perspective. That was the reason why I was always calling that Romania should respect the actual. We are not asking for more, we are not asking for less. We are just asking for the European standards, for prison conditions, for due process, for trials, for this to be respected in Romania. No more, no less. Now, Romania made some promises that it was going to fix, because it was part of the decision from the European Court of Human Justice, of Human Rights, that it will fix the prison condition, and that is happening already in many of the prisons. And I want to point out something else. In 2016, for example, the Minister of Justice at that time, Raluca Prună, when she was asked during a meeting of the Superior Council of Magistracy, what is the situation of the prison conditions, because there was a pilot decision that said if Romania is not fixing this problem in 6 months, in a year, we will be charged or asked to pay millions of euros in compensations. And Raluca Prună said, and I quote her, I had to lie to the European Court of Human Rights in order to buy more time. See, that statement was not reported anywhere. Now I'm asking you, if any minister here in Brussels or in any other European country would have said that I lied to the European Court of Human Rights on an important issue like this, where thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands of people, maybe hundreds of thousands over the years, they've been kept in inhumane conditions in Romania, what would you think the reaction of the media would be? Nobody in Romania, or it was a little bit of, that issue was reported a little bit in Romania, but no one else said anything else. So this is just one example of how the situation, the fact was kept away from the people. Right now, the Social Democratic Party, the Minister of Justice, actually, because all the prisons are under the Minister of Justice, it's fixing a lot of the prisons, and we hope that not in 5 years from now, sooner than 5 years, we will have this situation resolved. As far as the second question about the pretrial detention, there are reports from a lot of international institutions who are stating that in the former communist countries, including Romania, the prosecutors are asking for pretrial detention of the people who are indicted in order to force them to make confessions. Now, the pretrial detention, it's an important task during a judicial process. If you have someone, for example, who is accused of a crime, if that person is trying to hide from the justice, you have no chance, but you have to request a pretrial detention. The problem was, in many cases, the pretrial detention was asked on bogus charges. So now slowly, people who were in pretrial detention in 2012, 13, 14, 15, their cases now are towards the end. And more of those people now are acquitted. Now who's going to pay for the fact that those people were kept in inhumane conditions for months or over a year? Their businesses were destroyed, their family were destroyed, their political career was destroyed. Who's going to pay for that? Us, the Romanians. The people, actually. That's not fair. So I'm glad that you raised that issue of pretrial detention. And right now, I think the situation balanced by itself, because the prosecutors are not asking for them any pretrial detentions anymore, and judges are more and more careful to analyze the case page by page to make sure that they are not misled. What was the third question?
Civil service protocols.
The protocols, yes. The Romanian Constitutional Court already ruled a few months ago that the General Prosecutor's Office, by signing a secret classified protocol with the Romanian intelligence agency that allowed this agency to be involved in the judiciary despite the fact that the public law forbid them to be involved in the judiciary, stated that the General Prosecutor Office violated the separation of powers in the state. Now, this was going on since 2009. In 2016, another secret protocol was signed between the General Prosecutor's Office and SRI. But in 2017-18, we found out that the High Court of Cassation and Justice also signed a secret protocol with the Romanian Intelligence Agency. Then we found out that the Superior Council of Magistracy also signed a secret protocol. So if you look at all the institutions that are part of what we call the justice system, each one had a secret protocol with this intelligence agency. Now there's a legit question here, because many people in the West, as we call it, from Romania in the West, even in the US, they were asking me, well, what is the problem? Because like FBI, it's also investigating criminal cases. And I said, that's true. But you have to remember the history. See, in communism, like KGB, like Securitate, like KGB in Soviet Union, or Securitate in Romania, the secret intelligence agency was also involved not only in collecting informations about people, but also creating criminal cases. So when you talk about criminal charges in a democracy, you should have access to all the evidence, you should challenge all the evidence, you should go in front of the judge. So that's the reason why after the fall of communism, immediately after the fall of communism, the newly formed government passed a law that did not allow the Romanian Information Service to be involved or to do anything with any criminal investigation. So that way, these attributions were split. You had intelligence agencies, their duties to collect information, and then you had the judiciary, the prosecutors. Their job is to collect evidence, which is different than information. Evidence, when you collect evidence, you have to follow the rules, the law, and if you break one of those laws to collect an evidence, that evidence cannot be part of the file. So,
can I add something? Sorry.
Yes.
About it. Speaking about evidence and speaking from a journalistic point of view, the program I was producing and presenting was mainly an investigative, with investigative documentaries, but also social and different things. What was very bothering for me and for other colleagues in the media was that although we had many investigations regarding corruption cases, the anti-corruption department managed to lose a lot of cases that were dismissed in court because they cheated with evidence. For instance, we had a very, very big case about some politicians and some lawyers, even some other nationalities, who tried to steal 43 hectares of wood. You know, I think forests, deforestation is a big forest, yes, it's a big problem. If you don't go to Romania, you're going to cry a little bit to the former forests of Romania. But anyway, they were trying to steal 43,000 hectares of forests, which of course didn't belong to them. The anti-corruption department started an investigation, and instead of looking for evidence, they simply falsified they were listening to the phones, the tapes. They were falsifying the transcripts. They had 1,200, as far as I remember, pages of fake. They went with the pages, fake pages, to the trial. Luckily, the defense lawyer discovered the fakes. For instance, instead of, at some point, somebody said, well, let's play with the cards on the table. The transcript said, let's play with the maps on the table. Another transcript was, instead of let's get to phase 2, the transcript said, let's go to bribe 2. And there was over 1,000 pages that were faked, so the trial is over. And the forest probably got to somebody who didn't deserve it and didn't own it. There was another very, very big case of corruption where instead of transcripts of the recordings, they had folk music. So actually a lawyer from a very big town in Transylvania called Cluj, maybe you know about it, a judge said, I was amazed. Instead, I asked for the evidence. They told me it's secret, I can't hear it. And the judge insisted, I want to hear the evidence because it's a very big trial. Eventually, they gave the judge a CD with the so-called recordings, and it was folk music for 20 minutes. There was another big trial where the chief of the electorate association authority, the one who deals with every election in the country. So they arrested the chief, and they said they have a lot of evidence against her, but all they had were some sticks, and on the sticks there were conversations between truck drivers on the motorway. And you might think it's a joke, or maybe you think I didn't sleep well last night. The hotel, it was new to me. Maybe I didn't sleep well. Well, I did. It's no. I can give you the links later on. I can tell you where to find this. It was. When I heard about it, I was at home. I switched on the TV, and I couldn't believe my ears. What do you mean? And they actually played the truck drivers' conversations. Can you come to my house? My car is broken. No, I can't. It's my wife's birthday this week, but I can come to you next weekend. So it was private conversations between truck drivers in a very big corruption file. And then there's the second question that I had: why were they listening to truck drivers? So I would like you to check the different phase of the anti-corruption thing that was going on in Romania. Sorry about interrupting.
That's fine. Do you guys have any other questions or follow-up questions?
Well, it just gives me a chance now. I should have introduced Carmen beforehand, but just to slightly amplify your understanding of her biography and how she's come to join her journey towards joining the PSD. She has worked for 20 years as an investigative and television journalist.
27, but thank you.
I was being diplomatic. She started very, very young, and she was working in the Middle East, in former Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, covering the EU and NATO summits, together with a number of the terrorist attacks in London and other places, as well as the really important stuff like the UK royal weddings. But also, more seriously, the fall of Mubarak and the unrest and revolutions in the Middle East. Since 2010, she has presented on Antenna 3 the documentary program Premiera, which has received Emmy Awards and is about the most awarded documentary program in Romania. You are nominated. And she has now, this year, come to the PSD to join and to enter politics. Perhaps you'd like to say a few words about why your background and why you felt the need to do this.
Somebody asked me if they don't. So I joined politics like 6 weeks ago. It was a total surprise for everybody in the country. For me as well. Basically, I joined politics because, as you heard, I dealt with foreign policy most of my journalistic life. And then in 2010, I started to produce this documentary program, which still is the best, I think, in Romania. And 2 years ago, when all the turbulence started in the street, I started to pay attention about what is going on in Romania in internal politics. I was never a PSD voter. I've never voted PSD. I voted once in 2009 because I couldn't vote with the other one. But my family was a monarchy lover. All my mother and my grandfathers and everybody was hoping that King Michael would come back. And for our lives, we voted the right wing. And then suddenly, I saw this party that was constantly under attack, that struggled to do something for the country while it was raining with lies and accusations against them. I was a bit afraid for my country because it was going the wrong direction. This campaign, we are facing violences when we have meetings, when we walk on the street, people who are verbally abusing us, they started to beat the people who joined the meetings, the PSD meetings. We had a week ago we had two. They were there, coming from different counties and trying to intimidate people and trying to provoke, and maybe they are hoping for a bloody fight so they can pretend that we started it. It's a very, very difficult political environment right now, especially for this party, and I sort of felt that this party is the one who still wants Romania to be quiet and democratic and to evolve in the right direction. So this is why suddenly, overnight, literally, I decided to give up my show, the show I've created, a TV station where my job was comfortable and sure and well paid. And it's not, I joined the party because I was planning to gain something. It's because I thought that it's time for me to do something. That's it.
Again, if there are any questions of Carmen, then please feel free to ask now, or we can take it following this event. Are there any questions? I think then if you don't have any questions this time, we'll bring this to a close now. and would like to emphasize that we are extremely keen to continue an engagement on this basis with you, and there will be our colleagues here will be able to ask, you'll be able to talk to them at the end of this event, and we hope to keep in contact. Sorry, please.
Can I ask a question? My name is Anka Guzan. I'm a reporter with Political. I'm actually wondering if you can tell us why did you feel the need to be here today and organize this event? What do you think? Do you think there is a problem with the image of PSD in Brussels and in the rest of Europe? What is the challenges that you're facing? Thanks.
We are here today because we are we will enter into the European Parliament because we are Europeans, because we want to discuss with you, to be open with you, to share with you our ideas, our goals for the new legislative period which is coming. And therefore, because also we would like from you to know us and to discuss, because we have 5 years in front of us, this period in which we can do more and more for the Europeans and for our common goal, which is the European project.
Can I be honest with you? This event was planned to take place 2 weeks ago. As some of you know very well, because there were some other interviews arranged for that particular week, but due to the electoral issues, because we have to submit the official documents, we have to cancel it. And then it was planned 10 days ago to come today in Brussels. So that's the truth.
Please, James.
Just responding a little bit to your answers. It's a request. When you're in the Parliament and you've been serving some time, please consider inviting Western journalists to come and look at the improvements to the prisons that you tell us your Minister of Justice is doing. I'd be very interested.
We'll sure do that.
Yes. My name is Julian Deutsch. I work with Politico as well with Anka. My question is a bit specific about medicines. So you're talking about double standards for medicines. My understanding is that when the European Medicines Agency approves a medicine, they approve like the active ingredients in the medicine. And so I would think that the quality of medicines would be standardized across Europe. I'm curious why that's not the case. Presumably, do you have specific examples of medicines that are affected by this?
When we started the debate about the double standards, a number of particular cases they've been brought to our attention in the European Parliament. For instance, when they refer for the meat cane, they said that look, this brand actually in one country they have 60% meat. The same one brought in Romania, Poland, and I think Czechoslovakia, they found that is only 30% meat. That was a particular case because it was not in my committee, the whole debate. And when they come to drugs, they found, I think, in Poland, the cases where what do you say, generic medicaments, they said the same active ingredient, but they didn't say the quantity of that ingredient. And the quantity of that particular ingredient was different from the same medicament sell on other markets. It's a very difficult investigation, and I forgot to mention that in Romania, also in this project, we decided to allocate 40 million euros to buy equipment, because in order to detect the double standards, you need highly specialized equipments, because you have to detect the ingredients in cheese, you have to detect the ingredients in milk, you have to detect ingredients in medicaments. So in order to do that, for medicaments in particular, it's highly sensitive issues because there are only few labs, specialized labs in Europe, in the European Union, where you can do that. So we decided to do that and to say that if you do that, then the whole chain will pay the penalties, so not the store. So the whole company will pay for the 44% penalty will apply to the total turnover of the entire company, not to the store. So I think nobody will dare to do that because it's too dangerous.
And so just to follow up, so are there specific companies that and specific medicines that you've seen as this difference?
I will look for you on the debates because on the hearings on the committee, it was not in my committee, I'm a coordinator on ITRE committee, but as head of delegation, I was leading the debate on the double standard. They have a number of cases which they've been raised during the debate with very strong indications, and on the debates in the council also they came, as far as I know, with a number of particular cases. So if you give me your contacts, I can provide you with the details. I have a good staff, so we can search through everything.
Are there any more questions? Before we, sorry.
Nicholas Wallace from Science Business. Why do you think these companies believe they can get away with selling different products in the East from in the West?
Because there are no provisions on the European legislation, neither on the European legislation nor on the national legislation. So that's why it was a fierce battle. That's why it was a strong opposition for double standards. If you manage to pay attention to the debates, I was the one with many others to stand up and to introduce again on the very last moment, again the amendment that all double standards, they have to be completely forbidden.
Right, but there was no rule.
It's about profit. It's easy.
I understand.
There are now rules in place. So to punish the double standards, you have to go to a very lengthy and very difficult process of false advertising.
I understand that they're trying to cut their costs to maximize their profits.
Yeah.
But what I mean is there's no issue with them, say, having double standards between France and Spain. What was creating a double standard between France and Poland? Why the Eastern market in particular is what I'm asking.
I don't know. If I will know the answer, that will be easy. But most probably, if the companies, they want to do that for money. So I think they choose the less risky way. So they think that a consumer in Eastern Europe is less educated, and the institutions, they are less prepared to make the investigations and things like that. So they don't take the high risk to do that between France and Spain. Just to follow your example. But with this directive, in the case of Romania, how we officially started to implement the double standard directive, it's giving a clear signal. You shouldn't play with any member state, because this can happen. If it will happen in Romania, we have means to be caught with proofs, and according to the European legislation, you'll pay 4% of your turnover. So I believe that it was a kind of misunderstanding from their side, because they believe that if we are on the Central and Eastern Europe, we don't have the necessary means to investigate, to make the analysis, which is somehow true, because you have to say to London, we have to send to London some of the products, because there's only one lab in the European Union for specific measurements.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got time for one more question, and then we're going to have to bring it to an end, please.
Many reasons within his letter for why he thinks this is quite urgent situation, and he's somebody who's had a lot of meetings with the Prime Minister and has many links with different organisations, with the Council of Europe, received cited the Events Commission, and he's a social democrat. I mean, why do you think he is in any way prejudiced towards the situation in Romania spoken with the Prime Minister, he's spoken with all these institutions, he is of your party. Why would you think that he is anything other than that?
It's hard to comment on his intentions and why he does what he does. What we could comment here is on what he wrote. And if you look at what he wrote, unfortunately his letter is full of errors. It has plenty of errors and misstatements. And let me read one of such letters, one of such statements. He said the following: the process undertaken for these key legislative changes is symptomatic of broad rule of law concerned about the principle of legality, which implies a transparent, accountable, democratic, stable, and pluralistic process of enhancing laws, legal certainty, the separation of power, and loyal cooperation. Page 3. Now, see, part of the rule of law is what he calls here implies transparency. How come in his letter he doesn't say anything about the secret protocols that we just discussed here? How can you claim that in a country you have a country ruled by law, which by all the definitions, a law should be public and accessible to everybody, and for all these years since 2009 to recently, the justice system in Romania was ran by these parallel secret laws that nobody knew about. So I think the best thing would be to ask him why he's refusing to acknowledge the problem of the secret protocols that actually influence the justice system in Romania for all these years.
I'm assuming that that's something that the Prime Minister raised with him, maybe? I'm assuming that
According to the
in which case, if it isn't included, I assume that he doesn't think it's valid.
Well, see, it's a good point. Because the issue of the involvement of the secret intelligence agencies in the judiciary was brought to him not only by the Prime Minister and the Romanian government. It was even my organization from the US who brought this issue up at the beginning of 2016. There were many other associations of the magistrates from Romania who raised this issue. It was the MEDEL, the magistrates, the Association of the European Magistrates, who brought this issue up. And for some reason or another, he's refusing to acknowledge this problem. There's no threat to the independence of the judiciary greater than a secret intelligence agency tampering with evidence, blackmailing magistrates, and being involved secretly in the judiciary process. And unfortunately, he doesn't say any word about that. Why he doesn't say anything, I don't know yet, but it will be an issue that I'm sure we will be raising up.
Let's put it this way, the rule of law, we are very much in the favor of the same rules and the same standards for all EU countries. That's why I officially ask on different legislative pieces in the European Parliament. There are 10, 50, 100. Let's put them in a very clear, in a full English language, which are the criteria, the definition of the rule of law. And that they should be compulsory for all member states. We've been refused this year, last year, to introduce such criteria, because we have only one major reason for that. An average EU citizen has to be able to assess if his own country is breaching the rule of law or not. You don't have to be a PhD in justice. For an average citizen, it has to be clear that one member state or another is breaching the rule of law. Why it was such a big no to a request which was coming not only from Romania, from many other member states, because he said we are against moving targets. I don't know exactly what is this moving targets. I think they refer to targets which in one country it's okay to do that, in other countries saying no, you cannot do that, you can do that, or you cannot do that. So the people, they want to have, because we are European Union, we cannot have different set of criteria, objective criteria. And I think that's very important. And we count on your support to strongly advocate for one clear set of criteria for all member states. So we'll know for sure if somebody is breaching the rule of law or not. And I think that's a good point.
Okay, thanks very much. I know that some of our panelists have to get away to other meetings, but at the same time, people will be here if you want to continue this conversation. We have the facilities until 10 to 3, till 3 o'clock, so we've got the 10-15 minutes for those discussions. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you very much for attending and for the questions put, and to emphasize the willingness of the team here and the party to engage with you constructively and to answer the questions that you need answering. Thank you very much.